I reckon this is a pretty cool spot, don't you? Palm trees in the background, nice view. Sun is, I'm thinking it's behind me, but I don't think it is. Hopefully you can actually see me and hear me, and there's not too much noise going on in the background. If you haven't visited the channel before, my name is Wendy Kier. I'm the author of the book Be More Wolf, Breaking the Trauma Cycle. You can go ahead and nip that on Amazon, and I also run the YouTube channel called Living Life Trauma Free. And I'm realizing as I'm moving around, so I don't need to move around just too much, that I'm a bit dark, but that's okay. As long as you can hear me, that's the most important thing. New to the channel, hit that like button and also hit subscribe as well. If the content interests you, if you've got any questions, pop them below in the chat box. That would be absolutely awesome. I come back and make sure I answer every single one of them. Okay, so I want to talk about my favourite subject, trauma, and I want to talk about, oh, I've gone dark again. I can't get it right. It's not right. Come on, sun, help me out here. I'm going to go ahead because the background's so beautiful. You're not going to be watching me anyway. You're just going to be listening to me. I want to talk about trauma. What happens, and I'm going to use a real life raw example because that's what I like to do because I think it gives the most insight for you, is what happens when you emotionally freeze. When you want to do something, but there's this like invisible barrier, this invisible block that is stopping you from achieving what it is that you want to do. You know you want to do it, but you just don't seem to be doing it, and you make every excuse under the sun to justify why you're not doing it. So what does that type of trauma actually look like? And yes, I've got my notes here to make sure I stay on track and follow the cues, otherwise who knows where we will end up. So what does freeze really look like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How does it play out? What's the devastating impact of freeze on your life? What is it like to live with unhealed trauma? Sometimes it can be very difficult to pinpoint actually what is it that's going on. And people don't realise that it is a trauma response that is playing out in your behaviour and your belief system and in your body as well. Look, it's gone bright. I'm going to bake now. I'm probably going to burn. What it's like to become emotionally hijacked in that freeze state, which is created by trauma. And ultimately, I'm going to show you how it has shown up through a real live example, which I think will be helpful. I've taken it from a personal journal of mine, so stay tuned. Now here's why I have a tendency not to listen to a lot of clients, or anyone else for that matter, who says something like, I don't want to do that, I can't do that, it goes against my beliefs, it goes against my values. There's a whole level of internal resistance that's actually stopping them from achieving what it is they want to do, but they have no explanation for it other than really digging their heels in deep and just refusing to do it. So resistance is playing out big time. So this is a really big indicator for me as a mentor, as a coach, that I need to get underneath of what the hell is going on, what is playing out for the individual. So I never take what it is that person's saying to me on face value. I know from the people, from the women that I work with, that there is always several layers underneath that we need to come together and work on to see what is really playing out and going on. That obviously, that level of resistance has a ripple effect, in their business, in their personal life, in their relationships. So this is what we need to understand, where that level of resistance has come from. And as I said at the beginning, it can actually be really subtle. It can be, well actually I don't know why I'm feeling this way, I'm just not getting any traction, I'm not moving, I'm not achieving anything, I'm pedaling really fast but nothing's happening, I just cannot get the traction. So yeah, what happens is they will often, or the example I'm going to share with you is that they go into denial and they freeze. And when they freeze, it basically means that they're unable to move forward, but they don't necessarily have an understanding as to why. As I said, I like to give real, raw life examples, and I always use my own examples to protect my clients. And I'm going to pick on the example of visibility, because visibility used to be a really big one for me, and I see so many female entrepreneurs, especially at the moment, who really struggle with being visible. They really struggle with being seen. So what they have a tendency to do, you've heard me say this before, is they will sophisticatedly hide behind, I'm not happy with this, I can't, oops. I'm worried that you can't actually see my lips moving, which, as we all know, actually is quite important. So how am I gonna do this? Oh. Okay, hang on, peeps. Let me see if I can, yeah, that might work. Let's see if I can sort it out. Can I stick you in a palm tree? I might have to cut this bit out. Actually, no, that is definitely not gonna work. Is that gonna work? Is that gonna work? You are now in a palm tree. No, because my head is cut off. Hang on. My head's not cut off. Right, I think that works. I think that's better. As I was saying, what they have a tendency to do is to sophisticatedly hide behind content, books. And what I mean by being visible, I mean actually showing up and doing what it is that I'm doing now. Actually showing up and talking about what I believe to be true. So they'll just hide behind, you know, sophisticated ways of hiding, and they will see that as a justifiable reason, dig their heels in and not do actually what is going to move them forward the quickest, you know. And I am absolutely guilty of this. I did it for years until I worked with an amazing business coach who said to me, Wendy, you are hiding behind content. You are not going to do any more written content. You're not going to do any more PDFs. You're not going to do anything. All you're going to do is you're going to show up and you're going to talk, and that's it. And when I did that, my business absolutely transformed. Hence the reason why I want to show this with you. But it's important to understand why I was in that level of resistance and why I wasn't doing it to be able to help you. So let me just check your notes, because I got a bit distracted as we moved location. Okay, lots of women struggle, absolutely. So for me, I used to struggle with this because I associated, yes, very important. So one of the main reasons why I didn't want to be visible was because I was abused as a child, and that abuse was within a group setting. And what that did is, in my mind, deep in the subconscious, through the behaviour that I'd learned, I'd associated being visible like this with being abused. So, of course, at a deep subconscious level, my programming, my belief system, the way I do things is going to stop me from showing up like this and being visible, because deep down I believe that if I was visible, if I spoke, that I would be abused. So my behaviour, my ego, the subconscious mind works really hard at stopping you from getting into situations that are going to put you in risky, what it perceives as being a risky situation, and it will stop you from actually doing it, but you won't know why, just like me. Okay. Yeah, so the impact of that trauma, the impact of that abuse, what it meant is that I wouldn't do live videos, I wouldn't talk live at events, I wouldn't do interviews, and worst of all, I hid myself behind other people, and I did that in my business for 8 years. It suffocated it, it killed the business, ran out of money. You cannot actually run a business that way. So let's give you a real life example then of how this used to play out for me. Just want to check my notes. Okay. Here's the thing, and this is just going back to touching on what I said earlier on. It's our role, if we want to be the beacons of light for other women who have experienced abuse, trauma, on whatever level it is, we have to sort out our own shit. We have to sort out the things it is that we have been through. So as a mentor and a business coach, it's my job to help the clients figure it out, not to dump and run, not to leave them high and dry, not to say you've got to do it this way or the highway, but to really not accept what the client is saying to you, but, oh my God, I've got something to show you. I'll show it you after. That's just taken my breath away. That's stunning. It's a chrysalis of something. Oh, I'm getting very distracted today. Sorry. You want to help them get under the skin of what is actually playing out. So how it impacts their how what's happened is now impacting on their level of willingness to be visible, about their ability to be fully present, about their ability to work with you at a much deeper level. Because ultimately what this is going to do is going to help that person run a better business, work with their clients at a deeper level, establish healthier relationships, be financially secure. It touches on every area of your life. It's not just one little bit of your life. And I've just noticed someone's left a plastic bag. Oh, I didn't pick my location well today at all. So let's go back to my personal journey to explain how trauma and freeze has impacted my life significantly. So one of the first children's homes I was taken into, I was removed from my father when he was an alcoholic. I was just 2 years old. We were taken into care, me and my brother, and that first home that we were in, I was seriously abused. Not sexually, I was emotionally abused and neglected. I was locked in a cupboard for long periods of time and fed drugs. So not only was I doped up, but I was put in a cupboard, locked in darkness, and that went on for a considerable amount of time until we were removed, or I was removed and taken to another children's home. So that's the trauma. So as I said, it took place over a couple of years. Emotionally, I remained stuck in that cupboard for quite significantly a long time, because I wasn't able to address the trauma, and I didn't understand how it was actually playing out. Because you sort of think, how is that playing out in my business? How is that stopping me from being visible, being locked in a cupboard when I was 2 years old and fed drugs? How is that possibly impacting my life now? But trust me, if that has been unresolved, which is what I'm going to show to you, it will have a damaging effect, consequences, if it's not healed and resolved. Okay, so it will be very hard for you to put your finger on it, and it's why it's so important for you to actually work with somebody through it, so you can bounce off what is going on, and they can hold you accountable and stretch you emotionally. So what happens for me is, it's not a thought, it's a feeling in my body of being in that box. Actually, I feel like I'm stuck in that box, that I can't move anywhere, that I've got absolutely no wiggle room, that I feel absolutely completely paralyzed in my thoughts and my decisions. Okay, so I don't know if you watched the last video. If you haven't, I'll pop it above. But you want to use 2 pens when you're doing this type of work and a journal, and you want to have one pen asking the questions and the other pen answering the questions. So just think, one coloured pen to ask questions, one coloured pen to answer the questions. This is the process that I have gone through. So what's happened for me is that I've started to journal on what's going on, why do I feel stuck. So I'll always start with the question, okay love, so what's going on? And then I'll answer it. I seem to be stuck in a loop with doing YouTube lives. And I'll ask a question again, different coloured pen, why do you think this is? Answer in a different coloured pen. The answer would be, I don't know. Different colour pen, really? I know you can feel it because you feel stuck. You can feel that wall of resistance, that wall for, I can't read my own writing. The wall, I can't read it. Here's what I will say about your notes when you're doing this. Make them as messy as possible, because when you feel it, like this, I mean it doesn't help that I'm dyslexic, but like this, your notes will be quite hard to read back, which is fine, because as long as you've gone through the process and released what it is that you need to release, that's good. You don't need to actually read them back. Note to self. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Is that okay? So I've asked myself, sounds a bit odd, but I've asked myself for permission to actually explore this and look at it. So I've created a container, a psychological and emotional container that I'm going to hold myself in. And then what I've done is I've created a whole list of what it is that I'm feeling. So I've created that whole list, and then on the other side I've just made some notes about how each one of those words makes me feel. So I've just gone through, picked out a whole load of words. That is how I'm feeling. Now the clever way to do this is the first word I've put is wall. So I can feel a wall. Okay, so what's underneath that? I feel stuck. Brilliant. What's underneath that? I feel paralysed. Great. What's under that? I feel numb. What sits under that? Lost my voice. What sits under that? Hurt. What sits under that? Shame. What sits under that? I don't feel good enough. What sits under that? Alone. What sits under that? Rejection. I cannot speak. Tired. Numb. In a box. Trapped. Unable to express myself. Abused. Tortured. Heavy, heavy stuff, right? Heavy. This is what's playing out in my head, and it's actually stopping me from being visible. This is the invisible box. This is the freeze and the fear and paralysation it is of the trauma and the emotional overwhelm it is that I'm experiencing. But we can break free of this, because what we're doing as we do this, we're allowing the brain to organise those horrendous feelings it is that you are feeling. And once you get your first word, it becomes easy. Trust your gut. Trust who you are. Trust in the moment. What sits underneath that? Whatever it is that comes up, whether it feels stupid, whether it feels irrelevant, just write it. Okay, what comes under that? Write it again. What comes under that? Keep going until one or two things will happen. You'll either naturally come to an end, or you'll get stuck in a loop and you'll start repeating yourself. I talk about the trauma loop in the book, so if you haven't got the book, go ahead and grab the book, Be More Wolf, The Survivor's Story. I talk about this spiral and the trauma loop and how you can get out of it. But if you find yourself repeating words, it means that you're stuck in a loop, and that is part of the freeze response. It's part of how you get stuck and remain a victim and unable to move forward in that current situation. So, list of words. What you want next to it, I don't know whether you can see it here. what you want next to it is then, and is just after it, is how that makes you feel. So let me just pick out some here. Wool. Unable to move forward, invisible falls. Shame. Why did no one want me? Numb. Lost. Overwhelmed. What's the next step? Tortured. Cruelty. So you just want to put next to them how each one is making you feel. And then you want to acknowledge that with yourself. So I've just written from the side of the person who's asking the questions, wow, this is powerful, beautiful, some really challenging emotions to deal with here. It's funny, isn't it, that you may think you have healed it, but if you go outside of your comfort zone, you will be pushed back in until it is healed. So I'm acknowledging and having a conversation with myself about the journaling it is I've just done around what's making me feel uncomfortable. I think she's very happy about being on camera. Okay, so you have taken the time to sit down and really connect with what you are feeling. Why do you feel stuck? What's going on? Really exploring that vulnerability and understanding where it's coming from. So once you understand what is going on, it's then very easy to reframe, a lot easier to reframe. But what you want to do before you do that is you want to write a trauma releasing statement. It's so important to acknowledge the pain and the trauma it is that you have experienced. So I write a statement and it goes something like, I can't remember. God. It goes something like this. I should know by now, I do them often enough. I acknowledge the deep pain and trauma. I give myself permission to release it and let it go. I am loved, full of self-expression and articulate. It is done, it is done, it is done. So, let me just... left you. I just went to get my bag because otherwise the cleaners would have it. Yeah, as I said, it's important to acknowledge the pain and the trauma it is that you have been through. Not to dwell in it, but just to acknowledging it. Remember what you're doing is you're helping the brain to process and sort out all of these different feelings and emotions it is that you are trying to get to grip with. So I acknowledge the deep pain and trauma. I give myself permission to release it and let it go. Then you want to pick 3 words that are going to help you stand in your power, help you stand strong. They're the opposite of how it is that you've been feeling. So I've picked loved, full of self-expression and articulate. So I am loved, full of self-expression and articulate. It is done, it is done, it is done. And stand into it. When you find yourself moving into this level of resistance around this particular issue, reconnect with it, reuse it. So the next thing to do is to think about, now you're aware of what's been playing out, what's actually been stopping you from moving forward, what's created that freeze reaction in your body and your mind, because this at the moment is all in the mind. you want to think about how you can create a new state of mind. Ultimately, we want to move away from the damaging, overwhelming effect of trauma and move into a space where you feel much freer, you can experience love, you can experience compassion. And actually compassion is a really, really big one here. So what they want to do is think about a new state of mind. What is it that you actually want? Because you will have been so used to being stuck in that freeze response, the place where it's mentally hard, emotionally draining, but you don't know how to get out of it. You need to create a way forward, something that you're moving towards. So you want to, as I said, create a new state of mind. So what is it that I actually want? I don't want to be frozen. I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be locked in the past. I want to help myself to move forward. I want to be able to take inspired action so I can actually show up, be visible, be held accountable, and really make an impact, really make a difference. So what I've got here is I've got a list of 4 things. So I've got wide awake, to be curious, to feel, see and experience. That's number 1. Number 2, have ideas flowing, to be free to create ideas for videos. Number 3, be fully present, be aware in the now that I'm fully connected to the best version of me. Number 4, energy to flow all around and through me. So light, fun, high energy and healthy. So one is a very dark, one is consumed by shadow, one is consumed by fear, isolation, alone, and that's what I experienced. Being locked in a cupboard and being fed drugs was, you know, the brutality of it, and I can feel that loneliness in with me when I become emotionally frozen. So this is a much lighter, healthier, better version of myself that I can step into. And the whole thing here, if you take away just one thing, and that is to raise your level of consciousness around how you're thinking, feeling, believing, and why is that? Why do you think, feel and believe and behave that way, and getting underneath the skin of it, because that may not necessarily be who you are. So this exercise, this process I wanted to share with you, the extract from my personal journal, my mental health journal, is that it is possible to move beyond what it is that you are experiencing. It is possible to shift the trauma, to basically allow it to live in the body and the mind where it needs to be. You won't always get rid of it, of course you won't. It's part of your personality, it's part of who you are. However, you can learn to manage it, and you can learn to step into something. You can learn to step into who it is that you want to be, who it is that you choose to be. So what I was trying to say was that being conscious is a gift, and we all have the ability to wake up and make decisions that aren't on automatic pilot. We all have the ability to not believe what we're telling ourselves, the ability to see beyond that and become much greater than that. This is how I believe we truly heal from trauma. This is how, like a hornet, this is how we recover and heal, is through the exploration and the journey we can take ourselves on to recover and heal. So this one has been a bit choppy, I apologise, but I'm going to keep it as it is because I want to do raw videos. I don't want to do all these fancy posh video, not posh, what a stupid thing to say, the videos where you have to take hours to edit and filter and do whatever it is you need to do. So this is a raw, uncut video. You'll see me moving about. But do me a favour, if you have a question, shove it in the chat box. That would be absolutely awesome, and I will answer it for you. But please do like and subscribe. You will really help me out. It means that this content, these videos it is that I'm creating around trauma for women, breaking the silence of violence against women and abuse, will reach more people and can help more people. And of course, one final thing, if you haven't bought my book, Be More Wolf, A Survivor's Story, hop on over to Amazon. Within there you will find me talking about my personal experiences and relationship with complex trauma, but more importantly you'll also find the exercises that I'm sharing with you here that you can go through step by step to help you to manage trauma and resolve it. That's all in the back of the book. So until next time, live life, go out there, live life, trauma free, go and shine that beacon of light and help others to recover and heal.